Okay, so I'm gonna do a very quick tutorial, hopefully, on flipping a batch of kombucha or starting a batch of kombucha. I have a batch going here right now that I just tasted it, and the sweetness is just about gone, and so I am ready to bottle it. So I'm gonna use this cone right here to add juice. I like to use 100% juice. I've tried cranberry. Last time I did some lemon ginger, which was really good. Any kind of juice you want, and I'll fill it up just to about maybe right there with just some juice, and then I'll add the kombucha on top of it. So this is just some different types of bottles I used. It doesn't really matter what bottle you use. This was a 100% cranberry juice jar, and that worked really well if you want a bigger portion of kombucha that you could just drink on. And then these are more of the individual bottles. These I got online. These I got at a thrift store. This was, I'm reusing some bottles that I got. And this cap you can actually just put right back on, and it works really well. It just screws right back on. And then this is another reused bottle of store-bought kombucha. So you can just reuse, if you're a kombucha lover, just reuse the bottles that you purchase and keep the caps, and then you can bottle your own. Okay, so when I get ready to flip my kombucha, which I do about every 7 days, my SCOBY, you can see at the top here, is pretty large, and I have a 2-gallon jar here that I use, and then I've got this little cheesecloth on top held with a rubber band, and this is important because it kind of lets air come in and out. And I store it in the corner here at my kitchen, just kind of sits in that dark corner over there, because I don't have a closet or a pantry to put it in, but that's another option. You could have it in a closet or a pantry. Just needs to be somewhere kind of room temperature. So then when I get ready to flip, the first thing I do is I just grab a giant pot, whatever you have, throw some water in it, maybe half full. I don't measure it because I don't think it matters too much. So I bring my water, see my pot's about half full, to a boil. You can see my water steaming here. And then I buy these little round, it's just a black English tea from Trader Joe's, these packets. And I throw about 20 of them in. I like these because there's no string on them, so I don't have to mess with it. So I just grab a handful of these. It's about 20. Since I have 2 gallons of kombucha, I do a large amount of black tea. There's a lot of different, various things out there, but I think about 10 tea bags per gallon makes a good, nice, strong batch of tea. And you can use black tea or green tea. I've only used black tea, but I know that green tea, or some people, maybe a mix of both, whatever you want to do. So I just kind of throw these in there, give them a quick stir, and then I'm just gonna let them sit, and I'm gonna set a timer for 15 minutes. And I will let those just kind of sit in there for about 15 minutes. And once that timer goes off, I'm gonna scoop them all out. And then once all the tea bags are out, then I'm gonna add 1 cup of sugar per gallon that I have that I'm going to be making. So since I have a 2-gallon container, I'm gonna add 2 cups of just regular white sugar to this hot tea. And then after that, it's gonna come to room temperature. So I'm just gonna let it sit. And then this container here will be completely empty because I will have put it in my bottles, which I will bottle more than you see here. This will bottle about 12 total, unless you're using larger containers like that. So this will be mostly empty, other than a little bit of liquid I'll keep in the bottom and the SCOBY at the top. And then once my tea is at room temperature, I just remove the SCOBY. An important thing to note is this SCOBY is actually a live creature, so you don't want to touch it with dirty hands, and you don't want to touch it after washing your hands with an antibacterial soap. You want to just wash your hands with regular soap and then give them a quick squirt. I have this bottle of partly vinegar, just regular white distilled vinegar, and some water, and I just squirt it on my hands real quick before I grab the SCOBY. The vinegar actually doesn't hurt it at all, and it kind of is the same pH as the SCOBY itself, so the vinegar is a great thing to use when you're going to be handling it. And it's also the best thing to use if you're going to wash your container. Don't use soap to wash it because you can introduce some weird elements into your jar, which can cause your SCOBY to do some funky things. So just wash your jar with vinegar and water. Don't use any soap or anything. So then I just get my hands ready, grab the SCOBY, put it on a plate, dump my room temperature sweet black tea in there, and that'll bring it up to about there, and then I fill the rest up with water, and then I put the SCOBY back in on top, put my cheesecloth back on top of it, shove it back into the corner, and let it sit for another 7 days. And that's it. After I have bottled these, I let these bottles sit out for about a day. Some people like to get crazy, and after they put the kombucha in there and they seal it, every so often they'll come by and just open the jar and let the gases escape and then reseal it, and supposedly that's supposed to add more carbonation. I didn't notice that it was that more carbonation than when you didn't do it, so I stopped doing that because it was just more time consuming. So I just let it sit for a day and then throw it in the refrigerator and we drink it. Okay, so I'm back in the kitchen finishing up this process. My kombucha over here, my tea has completely cooled off. My sweet black tea there. This is the juice that I'm using. So I added just a small amount to each one of these bottles, and I'm waiting for a few more bottles to get clean so I can finish. As you can see, I have all these bottles, plus I still have quite a bit left in there that I can probably do at least 2 more bottles with. So things are clipping along, and I'll be done here in just a few minutes. All right, here's my final bottles. They're gonna rest for 1 night. And there's my new batch of kombucha, ready to rest for about 7 days. If you let it go too long, it will get kind of vinegary, so beware. You definitely want to taste it as you go, and make sure you start bottling it right after the sweetness just starts to go away.